The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has announced new efforts to combat air and water pollution disproportionately affecting communities of color. Now, this comes 2 months after EPA Administrator Michael Regan toured some of these communities along the Gulf Coast and says what he saw, and I quote, was unacceptable in the United States of America. And let's bring back to the program now EPA Administrator Michael Regan. Good to see you. Give us an idea as we go about our day today on this Monday. Give us an idea. You might not have, I don't need an exact answer, but put in some kind of context. How many people this day are going to be waking up, drinking water, or breathing air that both do not meet the standards that the EPA says are okay for any American to be intaking?
You know, TJ, there are hundreds of thousands all across the country, which is why the president, for one, has pledged to eradicate all lead pipes. Listen, we know there is no acceptable level of lead exposure, especially for our children. Yet there are hundreds of thousands of children all across this country that potentially are exposed to drinking lead water each and every day. I was just in Wisconsin last week with the vice president, looking at opportunities to infuse these bipartisan infrastructure resources into replacing lead pipes. There's lead pipes that need to be replaced, but there are also water quality conditions, air quality conditions all across the country that we have to do a better job at the federal, state, and local levels, especially to protect our most vulnerable communities.
We know that people today are taking in levels, Cancer Alley, I think it's called, right? Cancer Alley, particular area here in the country where there are these increased levels of cancer, the numbers for people, we know they're taking in these toxic amounts. What now, today, besides fining them? Can you shut anybody down?
You know, TJ, that's exactly right. You know, and I can say on the Journey to Justice tour, we discovered that since then, that there were a few facilities that were exceeding their emissions level. And TJ, we hit them with fines. We hit them with violations. And we are framing it such that if they don't meet our standards, TJ, they will have to shut down until they meet our standards. And here's the reality. The control technologies to reduce the pollution exist, and it's cost effective. And these companies can do it. So I'm looking forward, now that people's hands are caught in the cookie jar, I'm looking forward to working directly with these companies through regulations and policies, but also appealing to them to say, how can we partner together to protect our children? The CEO of Dinka, I wrote him a letter and said, in addition to the fence line monitoring or the monitoring on site, considering you have an elementary school and homes hundreds of feet away, what else can you be doing to ensure that you are a good neighbor to the people in your community? So there are regulations, there are policies, but also, TJ, there's some good old common sense. And I'm looking forward to engaging with some of these CEOs and others to think about how do we preserve the jobs, but also preserve the health, the prosperity, and the economic upside for these communities.
And finally here, Mr. Regan, I hope you take this in the spirit in which I'm asking, but people here are watching this TV right now who live in some of these areas, who are watching you, they hear things about policies, regulations, federal level help, and that you wrote a letter to the head of a company. And that doesn't necessarily come to them as, hey, action is being taken, if you will, even though I know it takes time, but just take this opportunity. What else can you say to give them confidence that you, the EPA, or the federal government has their back?
You know, TJ, we absolutely have their back. Every single one of the communities that we visited in November, we have been in contact with them since that Journey to Justice tour. There was a gentleman, Mr. Taylor, who spoke very, very strongly about the needs of his community. I was just in contact myself with Mr. Taylor last week. You know, we know that we didn't get into these situations overnight, and we're not going to get out overnight, but we can clearly articulate to the communities every single thing that we're doing. And so the enhanced monitoring, you know, the levying of the fines and framing the situation so that these companies know that this administration will pause their actions and will shut them down if they don't follow the law. These are things that we're communicating directly to the community.
Mr. Regan, we always appreciate having you here, and we're absolutely going to call on you down the road. Hope you continue to keep us updated, all right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.